And we're here.
We are back in the studio
As
for
always.
MILIVE.
MILIVE. I am Jay. That's Brad. We're here to teach you how to make nutrition and fitness sustainable, achievable, and
Realistic?
realistic. Yeah, I knew I forgot one there.
I feel like we say this every day and we still don't know what we're saying.
Yeah, no, and I even have it written down if I need to reference it for everything. And
Do you have your fancy show notes in front of you?
I do.
Oh, that's good.
I do. And the real intro is, hi, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of MILIVE, where we talk about how to make nutrition and fitness goals realistic, achievable, and sustainable. I'm Jay Woith, and with me, as always, is Dr. Brad Dieter. If you have questions, make sure to ask away, and we'll get to all those questions throughout the show. Do you like that better?
I think you should, tomorrow when you do this, you should do it in your late night DJ voice.
Welcome to Macros Inc., where we'll be laying down some fat nutrition facts on you all week.
Oh, that's awesome. Man, I have not been able to do my Morning Joe show at all this week.
Yeah, no, I had 3 hours of meetings today. So
I have been in
meetings.
The same boat since 5:30 this morning, and I have 2 more hours after this.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I'm shot.
Such is life.
So, Brad, let's jump into our first topic. It's everybody's favorite. It's why all the viewers are here, why everybody's listening on the podcast, why everybody's watching.
Why we have 50,000 live people? Oh, my God.
Yeah, that'd be sweet.
All right. Broke Facebook Live.
Yeah. So here we go. We'll get into our first topic. Ask questions. Please, no mean comments. We will delete you if you have a mean comment about it. But we'll talk about keto.
Keto, the
keto diet. So keto diet is getting the majority of your calories from protein and fat. Very, very, very ultra low carbohydrate diet. And the goal there is to make your body's main energy source, make you oxidize fat for your main energy source versus carbohydrates. Brad, is that an accurate summary?
I would say that is an accurate summary for how most of us in the health and fitness world think about ketogenic diets.
Okay. So outside of this, and it's touted as, keto people are seen as this militant group of faction people. They've kind of removed and are not, I really don't care how anybody eats. So none of this affects me. It's seen as it's kind of like the stereotypical vegan, where they're a militant vegan, where if you don't do it, you're wrong. And I think that the keto people, some of them do fall into that, just like some vegetarians and some flexible dieters and some vegans all fall into those militant, I'm right, you're wrong camps. But I think that the keto people get an unfair rap, but I also think that they're emerging into this strong, hardcore keto only is the only way faction of nutrition.
Yeah, and it's one of those things where the vocal minority makes people think they're the majority of the group, right?
Yeah. Yeah, and so with keto, outside of this weight loss realm that we're talking, because that's where we're going to focus primarily on.
Yeah.
Is there anybody outside of a fitness and nutrition aspect that can actually and does proven to benefit from a keto diet? Because I want to make it clear that we're not talking about those people.
Yeah, so there are groups of people who have therapeutic benefit from adopting a ketogenic diet. And what we do know from the scientific literature and the medical literature is that typically the biggest benefit of this diet is to people with intractable epilepsy. So epilepsy that they don't really know what it's caused from. They've tried medications. They've maybe even tried, surgical interventions, and they still don't have, substantial benefit. Or maybe even they try this prior to surgical intervention. Typically people with intractable epilepsy, and even more specifically in pediatrics, so children with intractable epilepsy. That's really where the main therapeutic benefit appears to be. And that's where it kind of originally came from in the scientific literature of this is a viable option for some people. Now, there are some important caveats to it in that regard. The first is what we typically think of kind of standard ketogenic diets is kind of like you talked about, moderate protein, high fat, pretty low carbohydrate. That's substantially different than the kind of medical grade ketogenic diets where you're talking 90% of calories are from fat sources. So you're talking these diets are like in practice basically all nuts and seeds, even those sometimes can have too much protein. You're talking like 80-20 or 70-30 ground beef, like cooked in butter. Like these are the types of diets you're talking about. And they're very difficult to follow.
Yeah. They're not sustainable for most people as a weight loss thing. They're sustainable for people who need them to live.
And even then it's
hard.
So, yeah, it's so difficult.
Yeah. Right. I mean, but where's your willpower going to be more at? Trying to get abs or making sure that you don't have that because you have controlling a medical condition. So that's why I think you see people who have, they do keto, they're eliminating a third of everything they can eat. It controls their epilepsy and they have, or it controls their epilepsy, helps them with it. And they have, and I've seen, and they have good physique results. And I've seen, I've had a couple clients who they didn't need to follow keto, but they had children who had epilepsy and they followed keto in their whole house.
Yeah.
And they lost a bunch of weight and they claimed it for that. And then after the three clients I'm thinking of, all separate people, separate families, all three of them came and said, I've been doing this. It's just not sustainable for me. I don't want to lose the weight loss I've had. How do I work back into a regular diet? But they kept their children on it.
Yeah.
So I want to make it clear that we're not talking about this in a medical standpoint. We're talking about it in a purely weight loss and performance standpoint.
Yes.
So from a weight loss standpoint, well, let's start with the weight loss standpoint. I think is an easier topic. So from a performance standpoint, is there any benefit to being in a ketogenic? Well, even before that, to be in a ketogenic diet, what do I actually have to do? What does that entail overall in my diet? Can I eat carbs like only on Thursdays, every Thursday? Can I eat them every third day? What does it entail?
Yeah, so there's actually, what most people don't realize is there are several ways to be in a state of ketosis. And that basically just means that your body is oxidizing fat at a rate that is essentially overwhelming your body's ability to do that. And you're starting to produce ketones as a byproduct. And those ketones can then be used for metabolism elsewhere. So there's several ways to actually have your body enter a state of ketosis. One is to not eat anything. So if you don't eat for extended periods of time, 24 hours, 48 hours, sometimes even a little bit less than that, you will enter a state of ketosis. So just complete lack of calories, right?
Okay.
You don't have to just eat an exorbitant amount of fat. If you eat nothing, you enter a state of ketosis. You can have diets that are sufficiently low in carbohydrates. So if you eat 2,000-3,000 calories a day and you have, let's just say 150 or 200 calories from carbohydrates. So you're talking, what is that? 25 to 50, somewhere in that neighborhood of carbohydrates. You can be in a state of ketosis. Or if you have a very low protein intake and a pretty high fat intake and a moderate carbohydrate intake, you can also enter a state of ketosis if you are also highly physically active.
Okay.
So those are the three ways you can enter a state of ketosis.
What is the most common way that people get in?
Most people really just adopt a low carbohydrate diet.
Yeah, they're never actually in ketosis, right?
They can be, right? So we define ketosis, depending on where you look, anything above 0.5 millimole of beta hydroxybutyrate ketones is what people typically will say I'm in a state of ketosis.
Of course. Yeah, it's simple.
Of course.
Simple. Yeah. Everyday terms.
Yeah. So,
but what about that feeling like crap during the entering ketosis phase, the
keto flu?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's really just kind of your body is trying to adapt to different energy sources and different energy demands. And a lot of it will come with like change in just overall energy availability, change in substrate metabolism, usually a change in kind of electrolytes and things like that. And it's just a big adaptation period that your body goes through.
So let's say my adaptation period takes a week.
Okay.
And it's about a 2-week average, right?
Yeah. I mean, it can be a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks. It really just depends on the person.
So let's just say it's a week. It takes me a week and I'm good. I'm feeling good. And I'm in ketosis. I'm jazzing. Jazzing. Is that a thing? I don't know. So I'm jitterbugging with all the kids at the club and
flossing.
I don't even know what that is, but I'll just, okay. So I just made a jitterbug reference and you're going to throw out some weird.
Yeah.
Okay. So I'm flossing with like my teeth in the mirror at the club in the bathroom with all of the, is that like your dance? Yeah. So for anybody who doesn't know, Brett is on the podcast, Brett is dancing in his chair. So I'm in keto. I am living life. I'm feeling good for about 3 weeks. And then I decide I'm going to have pizza and a bag of chips and fries. And I have, 400 grams of carbs in one day. And then the next day I go right back immediately back to my ultra low carbohydrate diet. Am I going to hit that keto flu again? And it does it take me another week to adapt?
You probably won't know.
No. What if I did it for like 3 days?
I don't know. That's a good question.
Okay, but one time most likely won't throw you out of it. You'll just adapt.
Well,
and then,
you'll exit ketosis, like your body will not be producing ketones. But you've adapted
and you'll get back to it pretty fast.
Yeah.
Okay, that's interesting. I did not know that one. That one I is interesting. So now that we have kind of established what that is and how to get into it, are there performance benefits to being in keto?
So this is one of those interesting discussions. Mm-hmm. So I'll kind of start from first principles. So I really like to think about things in like the most fundamental way possible. Yeah. So if we think about how metabolism occurs, mm-hmm. right? We talk about energy demands, glycolysis, fatty acid oxidation, or carbohydrate oxidation, and then energy needs. And then we also think about how carbohydrate and fat consumption affect the other one, right? So we do know that if you consume fatty acids, you actually blunt carbohydrate oxidation during exercise. This has been well established since the 90s. So from first principles, we know that if you have a lack of carbohydrates, your ability to produce energy quickly through carbohydrate metabolism, specifically anaerobic glycolysis, is severely diminished. Okay. So your ability to do high intensity work is diminished, just from a biochemical standpoint. Kind of like don't pass go. This is the most fundamental block. It'd be like, I'm trying to make a rocket without having any sort of acceleration. It'd be like, well, that's stupid.
Yeah.
So there's that piece. So from a biochemistry standpoint, ketosis doesn't really make a whole lot of sense for energy production, high performance, stuff like that.
So for things like sprinting, explosive movements for weightlifting,
repeated bouts,
like what about like a football player? Like any position in football would not, they're like those movements, even a running back, those are all
punter, maybe.
Yeah, a punter. But anybody who has to sprint for 30 seconds at a time or less, this would not benefit.
I mean, 30 seconds, 90 seconds, 2 minutes, even like 70% of max capacity for any sustained period. And 70% is not that much.
Okay.
That's like a light jog for most people.
Now, what about like an endurance athlete? And I mean like somebody who's running regular marathons or ultra marathons regularly.
Yeah, so let's get there. So from like that fundamental biochemical standpoint, it doesn't make sense. Then when we actually look at the scientific literature of like outcome-based studies, you take cyclists, you take runners, you take power walkers, which Lewis Burke's done studies in power walkers. It's awesome.
They have awesome helmets,
dude, and their hip movement is impressive.
Yeah.
So those studies have actually been done, and what we see is the biochemical data translates into actual outcome data. So ketogenic diets do not improve performance in any sort of moderate to high capacity exercise capacity. Mm-hmm. There may be a slight glycogen sparing effect, but that doesn't matter, right? Like that, your performance in a sport generally is not determined by if you're sparing a tiny little bit of glycogen or not. Like, it has nothing to do with the outcome, really.
Right.
So then we get to where may it be helpful, and we're talking very low intensity, very long endurance efforts. So we're talking like ultra marathons. 50 miles, 100 miles, 150 miles, where you have a very low sustained effort over long periods, and the rate limiting factor there is generally, besides just like mental fatigue and kind of structural breakdown, is if you're relying primarily on carbohydrates, you have to consume them during these races. And you kind of only have a certain capacity to digest food while you're training. So if you can kind of train your body to utilize more fatty acids and ketones for long durations, you may have a slight benefit for sustained effort because you're not so reliant upon food.
Okay.
But what's interesting is even there in those athletes, a lot of them still utilize carbohydrates pretty heavily for their endurance work.
Yeah, because most of the studies I've seen always have, there was an infographic that used to go around, and I looked at, I mean, it was they listed a bunch of studies, and it was most studies show no benefit, no performance increases or performance decreases for the keto groups. And the ones that did were all done by the 3 that did were done by the same labs. And then the one that people always said, and I can't remember the name, I can never remember names of studies because I don't look at them outside of the one time I get them. But they talked about it at the ISSM conference in like 2017. And it was the keto study everybody cited, but they had like one outlier whose performance came up dramatically higher than anybody's who was following a ketogenic diet. And all the other ketogenic people had performance decreases. So he was just this rogue data set that they incorporated in their data, and it showed overall performance increase.
Yeah, and one of the really difficult parts with the ketogenic diet literature is especially in the performance side, it's riddled with some poorly done studies, some potential scientific fraud, in like misrepresentation of data, and very high variability.
Yeah, and isn't there a lot of the big data that's been published has some misrepresentation of conflicts of interest too?
I mean, there's that too, but I mean, that's one of those things where it's like I don't get overly concerned about conflict of interest. Okay. I'll just look at the data, and if the data's sound and the methods are sound, I don't really worry about it. But when you see a bunch of issues, that's like, well, here's the reason why. It's kind of like why would this data be all jacked up? Yeah,
gotcha. Perfect. So, and the last piece I think of the keto question is weight loss, overall weight loss. Is keto a magical, like, is it a magical way for people to lose weight versus anything else? Or is it like I always say with intermittent fasting, is just a tool to use in your toolbox, or is it somewhere in between the two?
So we know the state of ketosis, being in a state of ketosis, has no real benefit for weight loss. On par, ketogenic diets are as effective as every other form of dieting as long as it results in a calorie deficit. Some of the potential benefits over other dietary approaches of ketogenic diets is they appear to be a little bit better for satiety. And they generally tend to be a little bit higher protein. And they generally kind of cause people to, without tracking, consume fewer calories because of those two things. Ketones themselves can maybe diminish hunger, and higher protein intake, we know, is satiating. So those are kind of the two mechanisms. Now, that being said, any of the studies that have directly compared ketogenic diets to other diets do not appear to show any benefit. And if anything, they may be a little bit less efficient for fat loss when you actually look at net fat changes in highly controlled studies.
Okay. So why are people getting such great results off it? Is it because if you have an answer, go ahead.
Sorry, I had muted myself, I had to cough. So really my interpretation of the literature is this. Shifting from your normal diet to a ketogenic diet is a very large shift from normal eating behavior. It results in just kind of reduced caloric intake because of those things, right? You have a big change. You're going to not eat as much food. You have less availability of food, right? So you just have less options. Generally speaking, just kind of consuming huge amounts of fat is not a ton of fun to do all the time. So you eat a little bit less. And then there is generally people kind of increase their protein intake from baseline when they adopt a ketogenic diet. So their kind of satiety factor is a little bit higher.
Okay. Yeah. That makes sense.
Now, there are a lot of side effects that people don't really think about. Hair loss is one. Kind of acute hair loss. You can have some hair loss. So that primarily appears to be due to electrolytes. So if you kind of supplement with electrolytes, you can reduce that risk. headaches, nausea, vomiting. Those are the big ones.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then I think that's it. So, I mean, I think it was Lane Norton who always used to say, you eliminate 1/3 of everything you're eating. You're going to lose weight. You've eliminated a food group. I mean, I believe that. I mean, obviously there's a little more to it, but I think that's a really good blanket statement. I mean, yeah, like same thing with, people who go low fat diets. Yeah. Low fat diets worked in the 90s because you eliminated 1/3 of foods. You didn't eliminate exactly 1/3 of your calories, but you eliminated a large amount of your food.
Yep.
So perfect. Do you have any closing thoughts on keto to add before and real quick,
we do have some questions we can probably get to.
That's what I was going to say before we get to the question. So the last thing I want to add is it is, people who, I count macros. I do keto. You're all counting calories. It's the same thing. You can do a keto diet. If you enjoy it, you can do that while counting macros. We have a couple clients who enjoy a keto diet and they follow a keto diet working with a coach with us. So it's not something that's like, it's counting macros, counting calories, and then keto. Counting macros works for any eating style, any diet system, anything you want. We're just giving you numbers so you can progress and modify, and you have data to prove it. I think that's the important distinction. It's eating what you want and knowing how to eat what you want.
Eat what you want, when you want, how you want.
Oh my God. All right. Let's get to our comments. So Sarah said, hell no, keto. Dante said good vibes. Hi, Dante.
He's on the YouTubes.
Yeah, in the YouTubes. Yeah. Random Facebook user said, no, I'm here for half marathon training, which is our next topic. Diane Foster said, hello. Hello, Dawn. I said, Diane. Hi, Dawn. I heard it's great if you're diabetic.
So that's one of those interesting pieces. And we're going to work on some education pieces around diabetes, but what most people don't realize is we think of type 2 diabetes. We'll start there. We think of type 2 diabetes as a kind of a carbohydrate metabolism disorder, but fundamentally the elevated glucose is a result of disordered fatty acid metabolism. So the first initiating events that occur that kind of kick off insulin resistance and elevated glucose are impaired fatty acid oxidation. So if you actually take somebody who has type 2 diabetes and you look at them and from a metabolic perspective and you take like a muscle biopsy, they have decreased fatty acid oxidation, but they have regular fatty acid uptake. So they are pulling in fat normally from circulation, but they're not oxidizing it. So they're storing more of it. And that storage gets stored as once you kind of fill up normal muscle fatty acid stores, it starts getting converted into stuff that's not great, and that causes insulin resistance.
So, and that's for type 2 diabetics. How about for type 1?
Type 1 is a totally different story, and how that relates to ketogenic diets is much different.
So, well, is there any, and we don't have to get into the details from they're way different things. Is there a benefit of following a ketogenic diet with being a type 1 diabetic, since you aren't getting the carbohydrates in your body? Do you need, I assume you would need less insulin then.
Yeah. So there's pros and cons. The pros would be you have to take less exogenous insulin, right? Mm-hmm. So your medication bills are cheaper. You probably have fewer hyperglycemic episodes. You reduce your overall risk of micro and macrovascular complications, et cetera. So there are some benefits to that. The flip side is, if you are type 1 diabetic and you kind of operate with, I'm just going to have minimal carbohydrate intakes and never take insulin, you're missing out on the important things that insulin does in your body, right? It has anti-catabolic properties. It has some anabolic properties. So if you are trying to kind of maintain a healthy, fit, robust metabolism and body habitus and skeletal muscle mass and, bone tissue and organ growth and all those things, and you basically never have insulin present, not great.
Okay. What's the most abused hormone in the world, Brad?
The most abused hormone in the world? Cortisol.
So what's
because we're always stressed out.
Oh my God. It's insulin.
You know what's it is, but you know what's really interesting is, of all of the drugs that are used in bodybuilding, insulin is the most dangerous.
I've picked up, when I was a paramedic, I picked up two guys, both bodybuilders, one in a gym who was dead, and the other one in a home who was dead.
Yeah.
And both of them had the insulin need. Everybody thought it was heroin. And the first one, I was a newer paramedic. He was on the ground. There was a diabetes kid. We were like, oh, he just died of diabetes. Like his sugar went low. And he didn't get to it in time, or he gave himself too much insulin. And then right before I left the fire department, we found a guy in the bathroom of a gym, and he still had an insulin needle in him. Everybody's, oh, he's shooting up heroin. I was like, no, he shot up insulin. Check him. And they checked him, and yeah, his blood sugar was, we were doing CPR on him, and his blood sugar our meter read low. So it was below 5.
Yep.
So
yeah, because you don't have to be off by much. One of the scariest research projects I've ever done was when we were working with grizzly bears. We did insulin tolerance tests, basically. So we infused these bears with an absurd amount of insulin because they're huge, and then we just watched the kinetics of their blood glucose.
Yeah,
and we had to watch until it reached a certain amount to see when it would like bottom out, and then we had to flush them with glucose and bring them back up. And just like when they were at like 25 or 30, and I was pushing huge things of D50 just in their carotid, and I was like, oh my God, I hope this starts going back up. But this is
I would not want to deal with a confused diabetic bear.
No.
So somebody asked, what about products that help you get into ketosis?
Yeah, so there are products on the market, exogenous ketones. Here's what I can tell you about them. It's a little bit cheeky, but they're very expensive urine. So Lewis Burke published a study of exogenous ketones in cyclists, and it was a performance study to see if it improved performance. But they did urine tests and showed the kinetics of the ketone levels, and it was basically within a couple hours you'd peed all of it out. So they may have some minor effect on hunger, but whether that's because they just taste absolutely terrible, like if you read the studies, that it tastes and smells like jet fuel, because that's basically what it is essentially. Chemically speaking, it's not that different from acetone. One of the ketones is acetone. But yeah, it doesn't really do much for anybody.
Yeah. Isn't like incorrect. I remember I went to a nutrition conference on military nutrition once, and one of the things they talked about was the exogenous ketones thing. All I could think of was erogenous, and I knew that.
We are selling a new product, erogenous ketones.
Exogenous ketones.
GNC, call me. I will give you a $50 million licensing deal.
Yeah,
effective immediately.
Yeah, it's just me and a Speedo on the package with drinking a thing of bacon fat.
Oh my God. I'm gonna label this show as explicit on iTunes.
But they were talking about the ketone products, and they're originally designed for the deep sea divers, because they can get them in real quick, and then they can go on. I think it's with their nitrix tanks, they can be down longer.
Yeah, so and this is one of my big gripes with the ketosis literature. There are very interesting, good, applicable uses of these things, like changing brain metabolism under hypoxic events, medical application, like very interesting, cool stuff. The problem is it's being extrapolated way beyond what it should be.
Yeah. Perfect.
So
Sarah said she lasted 3 days on keto. It turned her into a rage monster that ate nothing but bacon and eggs. She hated every walking second. I would love every walking second if I just got to eat bacon and eggs. I would feel like Ron Swanson.
Is this the food that my food eats?
Yeah, this isn't food. This is what my food ate. Carbs are life. Hashtag carbs are life from Steffi. Sarah said, now I'm a runner and carbs are life. Oh, and fats because of cheese.
Jay, remind me when we're off air to tell you a very funny story about carb life.
Okay. Ian said, I think there was a study that showed the only marginal advantage was for an ultra endurance athlete, but he could be wrong.
Yes, and most of that is based more on speculation and kind of understanding like first principles of metabolism than actual hard data. But yes, that is correct.
Yeah, let's see. Any other questions? What did Rachel say? Rachel said she tried keto years ago and made it 3 days. That seems to be the average now. I was nauseous for 2 days, and on the third day I started vomiting. It was horrible, and that did it for me. Never did it again. 3 days. I lasted about 30 seconds because I just like carbs.
You had to have your Doritos.
Yeah. Let's see. Everybody else, people just having a conversation in here, which is fine. Julie said she's type 1 diabetic. She eats more carbs than ever and takes less insulin than ever, but she'll always need insulin. Yeah, with the type 1, you'll always need it.
Yeah, and part of your need for less insulin is due to your physical activity, right? So we have, for lack of a better term, we have two ways of handling glucose in our body. We have insulin-mediated uptake, which is a insulin receptor, very canonical pathway. You've got IRS1, PI3K, AKT, GLUT4, and then you pull in glucose using those glucose transporters. And then you have non-insulin mediated uptake, which is generally a result of physical activity and exercise. So you can actually increase glucose uptake without having insulin present.
Yeah, sorry about the cough that made it on the microphone. I choked on the hair from my own beard. Horrible.
What was the coroner's cause of death? Self-inhalation of beard
hair. All right. We're ready for Brad. If somebody is looking for navigation, they're like, you know what? I don't know if keto is right for me. I don't know if I'm doing right. I have been doing keto and this makes sense to me. How do I transition to a regular diet without getting a bunch of weight and going nuts? Where could they go for help?
It's a good question. I think the best resource I can think of off the top of my head and the entire internet is probably macrozinc.net.
Okay.
If you go there, you can either find any answer to any question you have, or you can sign up for a coach and they will give you all the answers.
Yeah. We have a 2-week free trial. Schedule a consult, come talk to them, see if it's the right fit for you. And if it is, stick around for a couple months, get some education, some changes, and it will be sustainable. So, next topic. Yes. Half marathon training. And this is one of my favorite topics. We get it, not favorite topics. One of the topics that I don't think we ever really have talked about, but I think something that should be. We get a lot of people coming in who they either come in because they're training for half marathon, they come in for weight loss, they're also training for a half marathon, or they lose a bunch of weight with us and then they want to do a half marathon because that seems like the people who used to run a lot, they tone down to half marathons. People who've never run, they want to start with a half marathon, maybe a 5K, but then a half marathon. So with running a half marathon, do you think are there special, well, first with a marathon, are there training for a marathon, not even running, just training for a marathon, are there special nutrition requirements? Full marathon.
I would say yes.
Okay. Training for a half marathon, are there as many special nutrition requirements?
No.
Are there special nutrition requirements at all?
Yes.
Okay. How about a 5K?
No,
you can just go run it.
I mean, I probably couldn't because my ankle's still all janky, but
I couldn't run a 0.5K marathon, but
I could hobble one.
Yeah. So remember when you had crutches? That was so funny. So
dude, that was terrible.
Remember when you had a black eye and had a photo shoot for
do you remember? Oh my God.
Brad, for anybody who doesn't know, Brad wrote the NASM nutrition course, and right before he had to go out there to shoot a bunch of videos for it and photos and stuff, he had a black eye from playing basketball.
I hadn't gotten a black eye since I was 18, so it was 13 years. No, 16. So it was like 15 years. I hadn't had a black eye in 15 years.
It was awesome. So anytime you see a picture of Brad on the NASM website, there's a lot of makeup on.
Yeah, and then I broke my ankle, and then I had to.
Yeah, being friends with me via distance is dangerous for your health. So sad. Back to half marathons. So what would you say is the biggest nutritional challenge of the half marathon training? Not even running, the training.
It's really finding the balance of how many calories you actually need.
Okay.
You do have a higher calorie requirement when you're training for a half marathon than you do normally. You probably have a higher carbohydrate requirement than normal, but it's not super huge. And generally, a lot of people will mistake their under recovery for the need for more food. So they'll be in a calorie surplus and they'll be gaining weight, but they will not be recovering very well because they're not taking their training appropriately. They're not taking recovery seriously, those sorts of things.
So do you think, with that being said, which do you think is the more important piece of the puzzle for a half marathon, for the average person, somebody who they could run a 5K, but they've never done a half marathon before. And for the average person, is it more important? Should most of their focus go to their nutrition for the half marathon or their training for the half marathon?
I would say the training.
Okay.
You can get away with a lot on your nutrition and still be successful.
Okay. So then on training, how, there are tons of I'm not going to get too into how to program for a half marathon. You can Google half marathon training program and
Google machine.
Yeah, there are so many good and programs out there, and I think at this point pretty tight. Couch to 5K, couch to half marathon. I think those are pretty appropriate programs for people who've never done it.
I prefer lounge chair.
Yeah, lounge chair, lazy boy to 5K.
Yeah,
what is and so with training, and I guess we put half marathon training, and maybe that's not the right phrase I should have used for this section, but we had it come up yesterday. I think it was yesterday, where the goal was weight loss and marathon performance, and we had said that you should have a primary and a secondary. Where do you think that the average person who's the average person is trying to lose weight? We know that. So the average person who's still trying to shed a few pounds but is training for their first half marathon, should their nutrition focus be on the performance piece or on the weight loss piece? Or should they go right to maintenance and just try for a recomp during their training period?
I would say in order of preference, maintenance for most people, performance for like competitive athletes, and then weight loss would be the last one.
Okay. Perfect.
That would be my PEMDAS.
Okay. Yeah, I would put weight loss at the end. That would, unless you're actively in a weight loss thing, you're just like, I'm just going to do this for fun.
Yeah, I mean you can. That's fine.
I don't know why you'd run a half marathon for fun, but to each their own. So, anything else to add on that before we jump into questions?
The only thing I would say, there's two important pieces to think about for marathon training. One is, volume increases over time. Like, be very structured in your volume increases. So don't be like, oh, my 3-mile run felt great last week, I'm gonna go for 7 miles this week. It's like, no, don't do it.
Yeah.
And then the other one is your runs throughout the week should be cycling in volume. Don't just always be running more the next day.
Yeah. Great.
Yeah, need some recovery.
We have more questions, but none of them are actually on the half marathon piece. So we have one on the keto, which is a pretty good question, from the anonymous Facebook user. It says, is there any benefit to low carb versus keto, or is ketosis the goal in both?
So there's no benefit to either. There's no benefit of being keto over low carb. Okay. So the state of ketosis, outside of maybe having some minor reductions in hunger, doesn't appear to be any benefit.
Okay. But with low carb, you're not going to get into ketosis, right?
I mean, you might.
Depends how low you go.
Yeah.
Okay.
Like the limbo.
Somebody asked Brad yesterday, anybody who didn't watch or listen, Brad had a picture on his phone of mouse urine, because that's what people with PhDs carry around with them.
I am who I am.
So it was a diabetic mouse urine collection that he was showing the examples of the different sizes, a larger urine amount that a diabetic mouse puts out. And Julie Pinkerton asked, reminds me, the diabetic mouse urine yesterday, was that mouse being treated?
So before I answer the question, you gave me crap about this picture, but that picture was used in a talk at the World Congress of Nephrology during one of the keynote speeches. So I would like you to know that is that famous picture in the small circle of people who actually care about diabetic.
Did you give that speech?
No, my PI for the lab did.
Oh, okay. But did you take that picture?
I did take that picture.
Okay, well, you're a world famous photographer now.
You're
a jack of all trades.
World famous amateur, semi-professional photographer for scientific academic conferences. Oh my God. That is a subspecialty of a subspecialty.
I hate you so much.
So that's my claim to fame. 5 people have seen that picture.
Okay. Perfect.
So was that mouse being treated? Yes, that mouse was being treated. One of them was. Well, actually, I don't know if that specific mouse, that may have been the control mouse, or that may have been the the mouse that just had the gene overexpression, or it may have been the mouse that had the gene overexpression and the treatment, or it may have been the mouse that just had the treatment. I don't know. We had an 8-group mouse study going on.
So in short, you don't know.
In short, 50% of the mice received the drug treatment.
Okay.
Which was a cool drug. I can tell you that. It's pretty awesome.
Dante asked, he said, off topic, you guys don't promote or share your live through your Instagram. Instagram does not have access to broadcast live from any software outside of in Instagram only. So you can't stream to multiple services like we do.
But we do have ours on Macros Inc. TV or IGTV.
Oh, is it?
Yes. So look.
Things I didn't know.
If you go to our Instagram, wait for it. Wait for it. Bam. That was
with Dylan. Look at that.
Yep. So if you'd like to go and follow us on Instagram, just go to Instagram and look up Macros Inc.
Oh, that's an original one. Who would have thought?
I don't know. Also, if you do not subscribe to us on YouTube, you need to take 8 seconds out of your day and go to youtube.com/c/macrosinc or macrosinc.net/YouTube and subscribe. Because if we hit 100,000 subscribers by the end of the year, we're going to donate $10,000 to charity. And as of today, we are losing a little bit of momentum, so I'm a little disappointed, but we are at 1,340 subscribers. So we have a lot of ground to make up. So let's go.
Perfect. Shanna asked, when training for marathons, is there any advantage to adding in incline training?
Yes, it's more metabolically demanding and it's more biomechanically what's the word I'm looking for? Safe. You can get more metabolic workload and less joint damage because you just have less slapping of your feet against the ground. It's a little less load.
You're less joint damage.
I hope so.
All right, you ready for our last one, Brad? Last topic?
No.
What is the best chicken cooking style? What's your favorite way to eat chicken? This is just this was like a perfect one. We're at 40 minutes. We're just cruising, having conversations now.
Rotisserie chicken.
Rotisserie? Mine is fried.
See, here's the thing about fried chicken. The first bite is awesome.
And so is the second, third, fourth, and fifth.
After that, it's like, meh.
You obviously don't have good fried chicken.
I've had good fried chicken.
Where do you get your fried chicken from? Like if I'm like, Brad, we're having fried chicken in
Atlanta.
Where's your fried chicken restaurant?
I don't go to them.
Oh, well, see, there's the problem.
I've gotten them from barbecues.
Yeah, you still gotta. Yeah,
I've picked up fried chicken from Safeway before.
Well, if you're ever in Chicago, there's 2 places that you have to go. One's Harold's Fish and Chicken, and then JJ's.
Harold's.
Oh, Harold's is awesome. But Popeyes is my overall favorite. Popeyes has like the best fried chicken.
The only time I will eat an entire piece of fried chicken is chicken and waffles.
Oh, I've never had chicken and waffles.
Yeah.
So healthy options, my favorite would probably be baked chicken.
Oh,
big fan of baked chicken. It's a pain in the ass to make, but man, baked chicken's good.
Yeah, I would say probably grilled chicken is my second favorite.
What is your favorite? Oh, yeah. I mean, yeah, grilled's a good grill. I don't like it charred, but it can't be raw.
No.
Have
you ever had chicken that's like just burnt on the outside and raw on the inside?
Yeah, it's disgusting. Yeah.
I don't know how that's possible, but it's happened.
I've done it numerous times, and I have no idea how I do it, but I've done it.
Next time we're together in person and my wife is there, you need to ask her about the chicken story.
Okay.
It's very good.
Okay. It's a Marissa story, so I'm sure it's absolutely fantastic.
Oh my God. That woman.
What is, outside of a chicken breast, what is your favorite meat of chicken? Favorite chicken cut?
The legs.
Yeah.
I mean, there's chicken breast, wings, thighs, and legs.
So like obviously, okay, so we'll take like chicken breasts are like that's the staple of the bodybuilder health fitness industry.
It's the most overrated thing in the world.
Yeah, but it's easy and cheap.
That's true.
But what is, so like mine would be, and I'll remove like fried chicken breast, like Like probably chicken wings are my favorite. Like fried chicken wings are probably my favorite type of chicken. I don't eat them all the time. I probably have them twice a year, but
I don't love chicken wings. The only thing I do like is Pizza Hut buffalo wings.
the Wing Street.
No, the Pizza Hut wings, just like the regular buffalo wings, are just awesome.
See, I don't like anything spicy, so I have to call back with that. But I like just regular, like from like Buffalo Wild Wings. I get the lemon pepper rub.
The B-dub.
Yeah, but yeah, no, I think that I bought a thing of like 2 years ago. I bought a big bag from Target of boneless, skinless. No, it was just skinless chicken wings. I was going to make them in the air fryer, but maybe 2 years ago. Yeah, make them in the air fryer, and I made like 5 of them. They were the most disgusting thing I've ever had, so I threw them out, and I still have the bag sitting in my freezer, and I don't know why.
I don't know either.
Oh, I'm glad you don't know either. Let's see. Christy said barbecue is her favorite. Yeah, I'll go with
the barbecue.
Yeah. Jay, come to Wisconsin. We have the best fried chicken. I thought it said chicken fry. We have the best fried
beef
chicken.
Fries.
Wow, I'm actually here for once. We're glad you're here, anonymous Facebook user who we don't know who you are.
You're my favorite. I love Facebook user.
Michelle said slow smoked hickory chicken breast. Yes, I have a smoker, and smoked chicken breast is absolutely fantastic.
Jay, do you see the next comment?
Why don't you guys do a podcast? We have a podcast. Oh my God.
We do have a podcast. It launched last week, and we hit the top 10 in the US for nutrition, I think.
Mm-hmm.
So, we do have a podcast. You can look it up on iTunes, MILIVE. You can look it up on Spotify, MILIVE. You can look it up on Stitcher, MILIVE. You can look it up on iHeartRadio. It will be there, but that can take up to 3 weeks. Or if you want, you can just go to macrosinc.net/podcast, and you can find all the sources where this pod is cast.
Yep. Yeah, but we absolutely do have a podcast. It's this show.
Their response comment is so good.
So the response to "Do you have a podcast?" was, "Well, sorry, my head has been up my ass for the last 2 months." Well, pay attention to everything we do 24 hours a day, and that won't be it. Why are we not like all the alerts? It's actually an amazing podcast. Well, thank you, Michelle.
It is amazing that we actually do something useful while we're here.
Yeah, I don't think we do. I always, every time anybody ever messages and sends an email and says, "Hey, I enjoyed the podcast, thank you," bless you. I always say, I appreciate it. Like, thank you. I always think that people are just like making fun of us the whole time because we're just sitting here talking, having a conversation.
I mean, they probably are. Let's be real. I would make fun of me.
It's Jamie. Why does it say anonymous? When you're in the group, Jamie, it won't display your username onto the live feed. It's a privacy setting.
That's so cray.
Yeah, cray.
You're a real person, Jamie. We believe you that you're a real person. I know who
Jamie is. Yeah, Jamie is a real person. So, Brad, do you have anything else you would like to add before we skedaddle for the day? What's your rest? Do you have anything to add first?
Negative, Ghost Rider. The pattern is full.
What's the rest of your day look like?
Let's see. I have a break from 1 to 2 where I'm going to get some office work done. And I have some emails to send out. I have one more person to hire today.
Ooh.
And then we'll be making some announcements about all that stuff. It's just been a zoo. I think we had for all of the positions, 300 applications. It was crazy.
Yeah, it was a lot. The emails were blown up from it.
Yeah. So I have that. And then I have a podcast I'm doing with somebody from 2 to 3.
Ooh, what podcast is that?
Let me
look it up.
Let me look up the notes. One on my calendar.
Oh, okay.
Oh my gosh. My Google Calendar's going bonkers. What is going on, Jay?
I don't know. You broke it.
Today is the 23rd. I have a podcast with Nathan Rose from Ketogenic in Australia.
Ooh.
Good day, mate. Put another shrimp on the
Oh
bob,
my
eh?
God, please don't do that on that podcast. Please, anybody who's listening, Brad is an anti-Australian.
No,
He
it's
does
from
not
Dumb and
reflect
Dumber.
He does not reflect the views of Macros Inc.
It's
We
from
employ
Dumb and Dumber.
Australians. We do have you're just you're a anti-Aussie horrible person.
Australia, I've never been to Australia, but it's my favorite place on the planet.
It scares the living shit out of me.
Because they have Uluru, that giant big rock. They also call their electricians Sparkies, and they call their carpenters Chippies, and they say, good on ya. This is my favorite. I just love Australia. And they call their hoodies jumpers. Like, what an amazing place to live. If I'm ever like independently wealthy, I'm moving to Australia.
I'm terrified of Australia, so no. When I like here's my example why. Beck Gormley is probably the nicest human being I've ever
100%
spoken to. And Beck she's one of our coaches. She was a client of mine before she was a coach. I can't build muscle. I can't do this. Beck worked out for like 9 weeks and was just this jacked beast of a human being. And then I met her in person, and she's, I talked to her on the phone. We email. She's just this nice, sweet person. You meet her in person, and she's just like this, like jacked, scary Aussie. Like she's super nice, but it's just like, and she's being nice, but I feel like if she were to flick me, I would fly across a room.
But that also just is because you're Jay.
Yeah. I mean, that's true. But I just feel like if somebody were to like make Beck Gormley mad, and I don't think she gets mad, but I think if somebody were to make her mad,
I'm gonna make you mad.
Yeah, like she would stomp her foot and the concrete would split. And she's the only Australian I've met. Like I've met a bunch of Australians, but she's the only Australian I spent a significant amount of time with. And she's really strong. And I think they're all kind of scary. So,
I mean, that sounds more like a you problem.
Yeah, and that's what I mean. This is our podcast, so my problem is your problem.
That's true.
Yeah.
Somebody asked. They said they would subscribe to us if we subscribe to Sharp Tongue. So I have it open on my phone. I'm going to press the button. I have officially subscribed, and now you have to do it too. Do it. Do it now.
Oh my God.
See? Do it now.
Oh my God.
Do it. Do it now. Do it now.
All right, Brad. Well, I think we're out of here.
I'm so mad I could fry eggs on my head. That's the best thing I've ever heard. I think that's it. What are you doing the rest of the day?
I have emails to answer. I have to go. And yesterday I went horseback riding last night, and then I got out, got the horse all brushed, cleaned, saddled, got him all tacked up, walked out, and then it started downpouring. And this is a new horse, and he does not like the rain. And he did not like me being on him in the rain. And we got into a little bit of an argument. And then I put him back inside, cleaned him off, dried him because who wants to be wet? So I dried him off, and then I left my saddle at the barn. And I need to clean my saddle. So I need to go to the barn, get my saddle. And that's pretty much it besides work and answer emails. So I have to clean the saddle, and then I'll probably feed the horse some, he likes peppermints. So I'll feed him some peppermint candy. And yeah.
I am going to go order new glasses today. So that'll be nice.
Yeah. You were at the eye doctor and sent me pictures of it.
Dude, my eyes were so dilated.
You know that in my favorites folder in my phone, I have multiple pictures of you saved from doctors and dentist appointments. I don't know why, but I do. I was scrolling through last night. I was like, wait,
I tried to send you as many humiliating pictures of myself.
Yeah, I was like, wait, why do I already have a picture of Brad saved in my phone from the eye doctor? And then I look and no, you have that bib from the dentist on. And then I scroll through my favorites in my phone again, looking for a new profile picture for Facebook. And I find one of you at the doctor when you broke your ankle. And then I look again and I find one of you with an ice pack and a black eye. You sent me a lot of medical pictures, and I don't know why I saved them as my favorite photos.
Because it's because now you have dirt on me.
Yeah, I also have the picture of you wearing khakis and ironing a pair of pants to go out when we were in. It saved as my favorite too.
What I live my life at 110 miles an hour, Jay.
That was the background on my phone for a while.
Oh my God.
It's just like
well,
we're out. I think that's
same
it.
macro time,
Same macro channel.
Tomorrow is Wednesday. So we will have like 10 more podcasts uploaded in the next like 5 days.
Okay.
So everybody do a rush of downloads, download all of them at once. So we get like 5,000 downloads in like 2 days. And then we're numero uno. And then I can just say, I will just play that ludicrous song. Like I'm on the number one spot.
Oh my God. Don't do that again.
So
and then we have some news coming up for MILIVE. We do have, for anybody who doesn't know, Derek and Hannah do have their nighttime show. So that will be making a little bit of a change, a comeback, a couple more episodes. And then we will have some more MILIVE news coming soon.
And we have lots of fun things in the hopper.
Oh my God. If anybody could sit
fun for you guys, boatloads of work for us.
This is the idea napkin. Like from today alone. And a lot of it's doodles, I'm not going to lie, but it is the idea napkin from today.
This is my empty coffee coaster. Let me tell you about the horrible thing that happened to me today.
Oh my God. We do have to get going.
We have 3 minutes. I almost never go order coffee from anywhere. Like I just make it at home. But I had to go to my office today to go deal with some stuff this morning. So I was like, I'll go grab some coffee on the way because I haven't had enough this morning. I go to Starbucks, I order my drink, I get to my office, and they made the wrong drink.
Oh no, what did you do?
I called them and I was like, guys, I got the wrong drink, which I'm not too horribly concerned about, but somebody else probably has my drink. So I would double check all the drinks to make sure you're not off by one and giving everybody the wrong drinks. And they're like, oh, I'm so sorry. You can come back tomorrow for a free one. And I was like, deal. The morning cup of Joe is going to be back tomorrow. I couldn't do it yesterday morning because we had meetings starting at 6. And I couldn't do it yesterday because today because I had meetings. But it will start tomorrow, and we are moving a bunch of stuff around, so I'm trying to figure out the exact time, but I think it's going to end up being every Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday at like 7 in the morning Pacific time, and I think it's going to be Monday and Friday at 6 a.m.
Damn.
I think that's what it's going to be. They're like 10 minutes.
That's an early time commitment there, my friend.
And I have to drink coffee and answer emails anyway, so I might as well talk to people while I do it.
That's true. I don't like to talk to people in the morning.
I know.
Not at all. Dylan called me at 8:15 this morning, and I thought I bit his head off. I'm like, what? What do you need?
I need more power.
He's like, I got a question. You're up. I'm like, it's 8:15 in the morning. I've been up since 4. This is not talk time. Not before 9. And he proceeded to keep talking, and then I woke up.
I mean, yeah. All right. Well, tomorrow, same macro time, same macro channel. You can find us on macrosinc.net/YouTube, macrosinc.net/podcast, anywhere pods are cast, youtube.com/c/macrozinc. And with that,
we're out.
Jay, cue the outro.